Hi there, I'm Dr. Bosh P. Jordan Jr. Welcome to the Hope Doctor Speaks. Our broadcast today is coming to you live from Facebook Live and also YouTube. Tell your friends and relatives if they want to listen and hear something about recovery, how to get clean, how to stay clean, some information for families who suffer from the disease of addiction. We have a special guest today. And so if you'd like to get more information, tell your friends to tune in right now to Facebook Live and YouTube. They call me the Hope Doctor. And if you like to if you have a friend or a relative, a neighbor who wants to get into detox, you want to get into treatment, you can call me. That's right. You can feel free to call me at this number, 443-250-9635. That's 443-250-9635. And we'll discuss getting some help and some hope for you. And just in case you have not seen or heard about my book, it's entitled, it's called The Pipe and the Pulpit. And my book is centered around addiction. It's the story of my life, but I also give some spiritual principles on there in that book as to how to help individuals who suffer from the disease of addiction. You might have a relative or a loved one who needs some help and some hope. And you can get this book by, you can Cash App me, and that's on the screen right now. The book is normally $11.95, but the other day I had so many people to contact me after I was in the hospital. I'm having a special offer right now for those persons who want to read the book or give it to someone else. The book is $6 only for the next week. $6, and all you have to do is mail or Cash App me for $6 to the Hope Doctor, which is on the screen, and email me your name and address, and we'll get that book right to you. So that's the Hope Doctor, Cash App, or you can write a check to the address right there on the screen for this book, The Pipe and the Pulpit. Today we have a special guest, a friend of mine by the name of Brother Teddy. How you doing, Teddy?
Okay, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. So glad to have you with us today. We want to give a message of hope to persons out there in the radio, on YouTube and also Facebook Live regarding recovery. And so, how many years do you have in recovery now?
Approximately 22 years, going on 23.
All right. And you know, I was thinking about this broadcast today, Teddy. You know, we've been knowing each other, man, for about 35 years.
Yeah,
long time.
Longer.
We've been, matter of fact, longer than that.
Yeah.
We've been knowing each other since back in the glory days of the 60s.
Yeah,
that's right. You know, I'm in Baltimore right now, even though our headquarters for our ministry is in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I was coming through Baltimore the other evening, and I was coming up Gay Street, up around Forest Street, where Sister Rose used to be. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember Sister Rose.
That's right. And back in those days when we were out there in the world and doing things that God has brought us away from, I looked at the surroundings, and Sister Rose is gone, and Gay Street looks like a desert town. But I thank God that you and I both are drug and alcohol free today. You know, there are a lot of people who are suffering from the disease of addiction, especially now during this COVID-19, and they're isolating. So I think that we need to give a message of hope to people out there, especially who want to get clean and want some information on how do you stay clean, how do you stay drug free. So why don't we start off by asking you the question, you know, what was your process of getting clean? And that's really step one. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Well, the process for me was very difficult. I was kind of what you would call, I guess, a hard nose, and I was not willing to give up the drugs or the alcohol, and that was primarily because I had a mental illness, depression, and I wasn't aware of that. But drugs always kind of helped me, get through whatever I was going through, whether it was depression, anxiety, frustration, irritability, whatever. And so my process actually began. I guess I had used now for about 30 years, and I started using at the age of 8, and that was actually medication that was prescribed for me by medical facilities and doctors because I had problems in school early on. In elementary school, I was always getting in fights, and I couldn't get along with other kids, and nobody could understand why. So they sent me to the Baltimore City public school system, sent me to see a psychologist. And I went to Johns Hopkins, as a matter of fact, and because the psychologist sent me there. And the doctor I was interviewed with and went through some evaluation with, what he said to my mother was, by the time this boy is 18, he'll be in prison. And so, that didn't give me, and my mother did tell me that, and that didn't give me a whole lot of hope. So one of the things that that really helped me, so I thought at first, was the drug that was administered to me, a psychotropic medication. It was called Ritalin. And basically all Ritalin really did was, for me, it just helped me develop a sense of uh, confidence through the drug itself. So it wasn't something that was a socialization process that I had gone through as a result of, learning experiences and being able to learn how to deal with problems and cope with situations and things of that sort. So I started abusing that drug early on, and it gave me a false sense of confidence, and it had me doing things that I really hadn't done before, but it just made me that much more emboldened. So early, that's when my drug use started. I guess I was at the age of 8 or 9. From there, I went on.
And after you, when you were prescribed that Ritalin, then you went on. It sounds like to me that's when you went on to street drugs after that. But what was the first drug that you started experimenting with?
The first drug was actually, I guess, barbiturates, amphetamines, pills. We used to call them dummies, and we drink cough syrup, Robitussin, AC cough syrup, and the pills itself, amphetamines, some of them was called like blackberries, black beauties, red berries, yellow jackets, and I'm not sure, at that time what the situation was in terms of what they did to my body, but I do know that I felt good. Valiums, things of that sort. Then I went on to smoking marijuana and hashish and drinking all the time. Drinking wine in the alleys with the buddies before we went into the all-night parties, the blue light parties, and things like that. And it would just have me dancing, and I was very sociable, and got in a lot of fights and things of that sort. So, my life was just up and down like a roller coaster. At my mood swings would put me in different states of mind, and it would cause me to just behave in abnormal ways. I really started using heavy drugs like heroin and cocaine as a result of hanging out with guys that were doing that sort of thing. In high school, I went to City College. It's very renowned high school, because I was a pretty smart kid. I mean, I had a good head on my shoulders, and in fact, a lot of the teachers would tell my parents, he gets suspended for fighting all the time. And when he comes back to school, he seems to catch on right away with some of these other kids. They haven't been able to grasp, whatever information that, they were teaching. So I
What year did you
wasn't
come out of city?
huh?
What year did you come out of City College?
I didn't come out of City College until 1968 because I
68.
failed in 68. I failed in the 6th grade. They held me back. And I
Okay.
quit in the 12th grade because I told my mother I didn't need school. I wasn't no need for me to go there. But she begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded. So I went back to school. And actually I didn't even go to the prom or my graduation because by that time I was already invested into the criminal world and seeing guys with nice cars and wearing nice clothes and diamonds and drug dealers and money launderers, and I was already involved in that, in pool rooms and things of that nature. So I did finish school, and I gave them and I had to go to summer school to finish, and I just gave them a self-addressed stamped envelope and told them they could mail that high school diploma to my mother because I wouldn't be needing it.
I don't know whether or not
Huh?
I don't know whether or not you know it or not, but I graduated from City College, 1965. The castle on the hill. The castle on the hill.
The Black Knights. Yep,
that's
that
right.
was up.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about the elements that you were in at that time, the nightlife, and dealing with the heroin and the drugs that you mentioned. Many of those drugs we don't hear about today. They have other drugs, pills that they are utilizing, but they all have the same effect. But today, fentanyl is in a lot of those street drugs, and it's killing people. And so, what happened? Let's talk about how. And we want to help somebody. How did you get clean? How did you get sober? Let's talk about that. What happened to you?
Well, I was always trying to progress in life, but drugs itself kind of like deterred me from getting to where I thought I wanted to be. So I was getting arrested for quite a number of different things, and after being in jail, I would talk to guys who had been in treatment and who had tried to get their lives together, but kind of failed. And then they had some treatment programs in jail. I remember one in particular called Eagle Village in City Jail. There was another one called CASH, and that stood for Confined Addicts Seeking Help. And that was a therapeutic community in Baltimore City Jail. And it was a closed off area over top of the gymnasium. And it was just for people that wanted to get their, drug condition together, get their act together with the drug thing. So they had a psychologist there and they had a counselor there, and we did a lot of therapy. So that was kind of like the initiation process for me to start beginning to think about a world or a life without drugs. It actually happened in jail. So the problem was, I guess, when I came out of jail, I didn't follow up and follow through because we were told, to get in a program after you get out, go to NA meetings when you get out. And of course, my thinking was, well, I'm okay now. I don't need to go to NA meetings or go into further treatment. The first thing I wanted to do was work, because to me, working was what was going to get me my life back, having some economic stability. And so that's what I mainly strived for. I guess the problem with that was, I was becoming more socially acceptable. Job. Not only did I get a job, but I was starting to manage my finances in a positive way, saving money and working towards getting me a little hoopty, so I could have some transportation and hopefully get apartment, things like that. However, I think the big problem was that was when life showed up on life's terms, I did not have, or I hadn't developed a process by which to deal with life's problems. So that was one of the main things that caused me to seek out drugs again in order to have some semblance of peace, because I didn't know anything about being peaceful or learning how to develop the emotional stability to quiet my own mind. I had not made a lot of friends that were in the recovery process who could help me through what I was going through. So basically, I was on my own. So when things started to affect me, life on life's terms, um, I didn't know how to deal. Could be, it was just about, could be anything. You know, I could be on my way to work on the bus, and I'm going through something because me and my lady might have had a argument or a disagreement, and there was some disparity there, and I was feeling a certain kind of way. So I'll be riding on the bus going to work, and I would see somebody on, like, on a corner, on sitting on the steps nodding, and the first thing would come to my head is, well, let's get off and see what we can get, because they look like they really, you know, they really there, and that might calm you down. And so that's what I used to do. I went back to using drugs, alcohol, to kind of like get me back in a state of calmness, in a state of peace, because I wasn't talking to a lot of people in recovery, and I had no recovery mechanisms to like catch me when I was feeling emotional unstable, that would help me get to where I needed to get to in order to get through things. Like we say today, you know, this too shall pass. But that phrase wasn't in my lifestyle at that particular time, because whatever it was that was affecting me, it was hurting me, and it was hurting me right then and there. And it may not have been any big deal, but you know, if my boss didn't treat me right on the job, or my girl was acting funny and I'm wondering if she's messing around on me, things like that used to infiltrate my thinking. And as a result of that, you know, I would start depression, frustration, anxiety, irritability. You know, those things would cause me to feel like I don't want to feel this way. I need to do something to pump up my spirits a little bit. So
Well,
that's what I did.
yeah, let me just make a comment here about the fact that you said that you were suffering from a mental illness, and that you were depressed, and that you were taking Ritalin. Now, at this time when you were using these street drugs, were you still taking your prescribed medicine for your mental illness?
No, I had then stopped taking Ritalin and any other medication. Now, after elementary school, I was no longer taking anything, no psychotropic drugs, because I wasn't getting any psychotropic treatment. They just gave me those pills when I was like in third, fourth, fifth grade, to tell my mother this would help him calm down. But see, they never talked about, and I never talked about with them, what I was going through in my home life. I had a very abusive stepfather, and this man used to beat me to no end. But my mother was really afraid to say anything, so I thought, because she had 3 more children by this man. So when I got to the age of 14 and I started fighting back, what she told me was, you got to go live with your father. You can't stay here. You know, I can't afford to lose another husband. So the drugs that I were taking in terms of for my I had ADHD. That's what they said.
Okay.
ADHD, I beg your pardon. I had I had ADHD, and that's why they were giving me the Ritalin at that time.
Yeah,
So
attention deficit.
yeah, attention deficit disorder.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people,
So
a lot of persons who are addicts and alcoholics suffer from mental illness. They call it a dual diagnosis.
right.
If there may be some persons who are listening to this broadcast who may have mental illness and are using drugs. if you had to do it all over again, and based upon what you know now, how would you have handled it differently?
Well, knowing what I know now, and didn't know then, I wasn't young enough to understand that when the Baltimore City public school system first sent me to Baltimore City headquarters to take a psychological evaluation, I never told the therapist what went on in my home because I didn't want them to remove me from my home. For me, my thinking was it was better to be where I am and go through the abuse that I'm going through rather than to reveal to these people what was happening in my home for them to remove me. Because I had a friend that was a foster child and he had been removed from his home. So that was my thinking then. Now, had I been smart enough to understand that these people are here to help me, it's up to me to be honest with them and tell them what's going on in my home, what kind of abuse that I'm going through that has caused me to be the way I am at this point in time in school and you know, the places I used to act out. You know, I mean, when you're a kid, if you get dragged out to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning when your stepfather come home and beat the hell out of you because you didn't cut the grass, you didn't hang up the clothes, or you didn't dump the trash, you know, stuff like that. Do you expect a child to really go to school the next day and be able to learn, you know, after going through that kind of trauma at night? So that was something I wasn't willing to talk about. But
what kind of effect do you believe now in hindsight and looking back, how did that abuse at home affect you as far as your addiction was concerned?
Considerably. It affected me considerably, not only in having a way to calm myself and feel a sense of relief and a sense of peace, but it actually caused me at a certain point to actually look for drugs. Because in the beginning, people would give you drugs, you know, try this, try that, you know, or drink out the bottle, you know, when we pass the wine bottle around. But after a certain point, I became obsessed with the fact that when I use mind-altering, mood-changing substances, it took me to a level where I was peaceful. And that was good as far as I was concerned. However, as my addiction grew, I became a violent person.
Yes.
And I became a violent person because I was dealt with violently when I was a child. I was beaten on a regular basis. So violence became a part of the lifestyle. And I used it and intimidated people and harassed and you know, just did what I wanted to do to get what I needed to put in me so I could feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that was a big problem because it had me out making terrible decisions. I didn't have any sense of regard for any type of authority. And I continued to get in criminal activities with people that were a lot like me, and that would end me up in jail. So I spent a considerable amount of time in and out of prison. Approximately, I would say I spent at least 18 years in and out of jails, prisons, and mental institutions on just recidivism, you know, just in and out, in and out, in and out.
Yes, just as a caveat, would you share with our audience what you do now? As much as you can, or what your experiences and educational level are now in relation to what you just talked about, spending about 18 years in prison. But let people know how recovery has changed your life because of what you have been able to do now. I think that would be good.
Well, I went through a number of different treatment centers, methadone treatment centers and therapeutic treatment centers. I went, you know, just trying to get my life together. And it became a real battle. And also during the time of my youth, and I ended up being a intravenous heroin user. I suffered a lot in terms of, as I got older, my body didn't heal as quickly. So the abuse began to show in my body and physically, and it was already there mentally. So one day I was at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and I had what they call endocarditis, and it can affect you in either your brain, your spine, or your heart. And the doctor told me that this bacteria had infiltrated my heart, and that they were giving me antibiotics to try to kill this bacteria to keep it from shutting down my heart. What he told me was the bacteria looks like a seaweed in the bottom of the ocean, and what it has done is it has clambered onto your ventricles, and as a result of that, your blood is not pumping out and pumping in the way it's supposed to. So we said we may have to cut your chest open and then cut your heart open and scrape your heart valves and see if we can get the bacteria as much as we can off of it. Or if it's too badly damaged and deteriorated, we may have to cut your heart valves and give you pig valves or plastic valves in order to keep your heart continue to function properly. So that really scared me, because I was like, wow, this is not a job related accident, and you know, it's not a car act. This is something I did to myself as a result of my using. So this nurse came to me and she asked me that I want to. They had a drug program at Johns Hopkins, and she said, well, "You want me to call a counselor to come over because I see you got a problem?" Yeah, and I said, "No, that's okay. I've been through a lot of treatment centers. I've been through a lot of, you know, therapeutic communities, detoxes. Nothing seemed to do me any good. So, you know, I didn't have any hope at all of ever changing." That's what the point I'm trying to make. For me, I figured I was going to die an addict. Um, I had this belief, this false belief that that God, because I believed in God. God created doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. And somebody in my family must have done something so horrific that God is making me pay um, by making me go through what I'm going through today. That's what I actually believe, that lie that was created in my own head. So the nurse, even though I told her no, I'm okay, you know, she went and got, you know, called, and the counselor came over anyway. I never forget this lady's name. Her name was Diane Moses, you know. And I tell her, when I say Moses, she took me to the promised land, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
But
she came.
since you have been in recovery for almost 23 years, your life has been turned around. And I just wanted you to mention the fact that you actually became a counselor. Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I went through treatment, and then I came out, and I still had some ups and downs, but I never went back to using again. I went back to school. I went to Morgan State University, and I earned a bachelor's degree in sociology. And from there, I went on to Coppin State University, and I earned a master's degree in counseling. So I began to work as a master's degree in counseling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So
now that's since you've been in recovery. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And a master's. What did you get your master's in Coppin?
In counseling.
And the reason why I'm saying this for the time that we have left, your process of getting clean has been turned into a couple of decades of recovery. And so there's some persons out there who may be new in recovery, and they're wondering, how do you stay clean a day at a time? How have you done that?
Well, I was first of all introduced to Narcotics Anonymous, and in the program, I've learned how to get a sponsor, which gave me a sponsee family of men whose all their phone numbers I have. And whenever I'm in need of help with anything, I have someone I can call and talk to. Whenever I'm going through any issues or situations, or if I have any type of problems, there's someone I can call and I can share what I'm going through, and I don't have to worry about being humiliated or laughed at or chastised or nobody calling me any unbelievable names like you a chump or you really. So people that I associate with today, they listen to me, and they give me good advice when I need it, and usually they suggest some of the positive things that I need to do in order to um, arrive at a solution that I may need to arrive at in order to get to where I want to be. Because a lot of them have already been through what I'm going through, that have been here in a fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous for years beyond mine. So it's good to have a grand sponsor. It's good to have a sponsor. It's good to have sponsee brothers. We get together once a month. We come together. There's 12 steps and 12 traditions and 12 concepts in the Narcotics Anonymous program. And we do step work. And every month, like this month is August. Well, it's September now. So this is the 9th month. So we on a 9th step. And we come together over someone's house, whoever turn it is to host it, and we talk about how the 9th step is affecting us in our lives, because the 9th step is full of principles and values that we adhere to and we live by. Or you can just discuss where you at right now in your process of recovery, because had the same amount of time. Everybody doesn't have as much information as others. Some people haven't been in the fellowship or with our sponsee group that long, so they might not have done the 9th step.
Yes.
So
yes. Let me just mention one thing, Teddy, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but you mentioned where you've come from and the kind of things that you were doing back in the day when you were out there in the world, and the kind of people that you were hanging around with. And I just want to say that God has brought you a mighty long way from where you were, and you and I were hanging around the same people. As a matter of fact, if, I don't know whether or not you remember it or not, but you were the first person I ever bought any Coke from, and that must have been back in 1968, 67, yeah. 68. A spoon of Coke, and I don't know. And you were talking about how you were getting into fights and going back and forth to jail, and I had gotten this Coke from you, man, and I had never done Coke before, but then I did it and didn't know what to expect, and didn't get what I thought I was going to get, and I brought it back to you, but I knew that you were crazy, that you were sick, man, you were out of your mind, and because I knew you carried a gun at that time. And so at that time, when I brought it back to you, I just knew that I had to be a certain kind of a way with that. And you gave me my money back, and I was surprised, but I was glad of that. But I just want people to know that I know that you were a very violent individual at that time. Matter of fact, I was too. But I hadn't been arrested, but you were in and out of jail. You said for 18 years, and so I want people to know that the same way that God has changed your life, that God can change their lives. Now, I know you got a higher power in your life. Could you talk a little bit about that? And the reason why I'm saying that is because I know that God or a higher power can change anybody's life. And I believe that you know that too. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yes, I do have a higher power in my life, And is it okay if I say what my higher power is?
Yeah, you can say anything you want.
Okay, Jesus Christ. That's where my belief is, and that's the Bible. The Holy Bible is where I get my concentrations of thoughts and concepts from. I'm very instrumental in being a part of a community. I'm referring to my church where I have a pastor. I have brothers in there as well as sisters that a lot of them know my story. They know some of things I've done, and they have been willing to accept me and help me in my process to a spiritual realm that I never had before. Today, I can have a peace of mind without putting a drug in my body. And that's because I have a God of my understanding in my life that can help me through any process that I'm involved in, no matter what. And I mean, sometimes, my thinking can revert back to old behaviors to a point where I stop and I have to start praying. I have to pray, ask God, why am I going through this? I don't act like this anymore. Why am I having these feelings about maybe a particular person, about harming a person or something of that nature? Why? And I just start praying. I mean, it could happen. It could just happen, anytime. I was especially driving in traffic. When somebody pulls in front of you, does something stupid, tries to cut you off or whatever, I automatically I've gotten used to, and it's become a habit for me to pray. And when I pray, my anxiety or my irritability actually dissolve, and I can put myself back in a state of peace. I don't even have to take some psychotropic medication.
11 step. That's what
I'm
you're
not
talking
saying I don't.
11th step.
Yeah. I don't take psychotropic medications anymore. I mean, I know I still have depression, but and I know what the symptoms are because I have actually studied depression is, what the symptoms are, and how I begin to feel when I'm going through a depression. So what I do a lot about it, to do something about it, means for me to sit down with the God of my understanding and ask God, what's going on with me? Why is this happening to me? I might call a church member, or I might call a sponsee brother, and they'll say, well, what have you been doing in the last 24 hours that may have affected your spirit, or the last 48 hours, or the last 72 hours? Who have you come in contact with? What issues have you been dealing with that have you feeling the way you're feeling now? I never had that process in my life until I came into recovery, because my way of dealing with life on life's terms and my emotional instability was to get high. Because when I got high, I was oblivious to anything and everything that was around me. And I'm talking about reality in general. I was in another world, in another space, on cloud nine. So I don't have to go to cloud nine today to recuperate from anything I may be feeling, any thoughts that may come through my mind. I can sit down today and talk with positive. It's like I used to talk to the thugs about who was going to rob and how who's going to get away, and the same. I'm not doing that anymore. I got people in my life, positive people now, who are in recovery and who are a part of my church members, and I'm involved with them. So they don't talk to me about no bull. I don't hear any foolishness like, here, man, take my gun, yeah, bust him, the buses. I don't hear that anymore. What I hear today is, well, come on, let's pray together.
Right.
Let's sit down, let's ask God for some mercy with this.
Could you talk just a little bit before we close about how this 12-step program that you are part of is a spiritual program? And it's not, when you mentioned that your higher power is Jesus Christ, we have the same higher power, but that's not what we talk about in the fellowship but at the same time, we do talk about a higher power, and we talk about prayer. What I want you to do right now is I want you to give some hope to somebody out there who's listening, who is struggling with getting clean. They're still drinking, they're still using drugs, and they want to get clean, but they need some help. Give them some hope, Teddy.
Well, to give you a shot of hope, the best thing I can tell you is simply get with some people that's in recovery. Go to a treatment center. Call somebody on the phone. If you want help, you got to reach out for it. Ask for help. And if you can do that, that God will send people in your life that will help you in your process. He sure sent people to me in my life. So even though the God of my understanding is Jesus Christ, that's not the God of everybody's understanding in the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. You know, some people are Muslims, some people of other faiths and Jewish people. So nobody has to have a mandatory particular God. We make room for everybody's God, no matter who you are. You get to choose and pick whoever you want your God to be. We don't have any control over that. The only thing the program asks is that whomever your God is, hopefully he is a loving, or she is a loving and caring God, and know that there is a God, and it's not me. It's definitely not me. So that's what's really important. Get with people who are in recovery. If you can get with some people in recovery and you are open-minded enough to listen and acquire some of the knowledge that they try to instill in you in terms of what you can do, and then are willing to actually follow up and follow through and do those things, whatever they may be, positive things, eventually, you know, you get in a state of mind where you don't want to get any high anymore. Where I used to have a desire to high, I got to get high, you know, I just got to get me some blast. I don't have that desire anymore. My desire today is, what about that grandmother that's taking care of her 4 grandchildren? Why can't I call her and see how she's doing? Maybe she needs some food. Let me just stop at the market and buy a few things and just drop them past her house. Or what about that 94-year-old lady that lived next door to my mother for 65 years? I wonder how she's doing. Let me give her a call, see how she's doing. If she needs anything, what can I do to be of service to her? That's what the process has done for me. It has made me less self-centered and more selfless, to be able to want to help other people. And believe me, my life is I would have never I'm in the position where I am today. But I listen to what people do.
How has your family life changed? How have the people in your family changed their attitude toward you since you've been in recovery?
Well, basically, to be honest with you, it took me so long that most of my family passed away. My mother was only child. My father was only child. So my sister and I didn't have, you know, aunts, uncles, first cousins. And my sister passed away, Peggy. She passed away July 2017. And so she was very happy about the fact that I got my life together. And she would tell me that constantly. I'm so proud of you. And it meant a lot.
And you have a child, you have some children or child. How do you raise them different from the way you were raised?
Yeah, I have a daughter. She's 33 years old. I didn't have it until I was 40 because it wasn't about, you know, being in relationships or family. That wasn't on my agenda. So today, her and I have a very good relationship. I talked to her yesterday. She's a smart girl. And the one thing I do is I don't lie to her. I tell her the truth. And I'll be honest with her about my life and about her life, where she's going, what she's doing, who she's involved with. And she's a smart girl, and she's doing the right thing for the right reasons. She has a job. She has a place. She has her own vehicle. And I just try to teach her things that will be of benefit to her in terms of values, principles, morals, so that she doesn't go off on the deep end. My daughter doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke, she don't use no drugs. She's a very good child, and I have my sister thank for that a lot, because my sister used to take her under her wing, and keep her for like whole summers and times through the winter. And she always used to send me pictures in jail, and I would see him, and my daughter would be sitting at a Christmas tree with all his dresses and toys, and so my daughter was taken care of in terms of my sister, and I appreciate that. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. How would you say that you raised your daughter? Did you spank your daughter? Did you whip her like your stepfather with you, or did you change your behavior with your daughter? And what information could you share with some fathers who are listening about raising children and whipping them, or spanking them, or beating them, or being abusive to them?
I wasn't in my daughter's life a lot, and that was primarily because I was going in and out of prison. I think I was like 40 years old when she was born, and 39 or 40. So, and I kept getting locked up. So, basically, when she used to come and stay with me, because her mother would like want to go out with her girlfriends, and my daughter would come, and I'd have her for the weekend. And that was so hard for me, because I knew I was an addict and I had an addiction. And it's no way you could possibly be a parent and a dope fiend at the same time. The two just, you can't be nothing and be an addict. And at least that was my life. I used to her, and I remember one time, and some of the things I had to do, man, I was ashamed of. As much as I wanted to be a parent and be with my child, I had to go and I had to steal in order to get my blast in me to keep me well enough to be able to nurture her, to give her baths, get her dressed. I mean, she's like 18 months old, and sometimes I would leave her with people. And one time I remember taking my daughter with me, because I was basically afraid to leave her with people, because I knew about my stepfather raping my sister, and I was always full of that with my own child. So I remember taking her with me, Bashi, once, and I had to get some dope in me, because I was getting ill, and I knew I wouldn't be able to take care of her like that. So I got a hack, and what a hack is guys riding around in their cars. If you wave your hand, you need a ride. They like taxi cabs, only they illegitimate, but you pay them, and they take you where you want to go. I was with a hack one day, and I had my daughter with me. So we got down into the drug neighborhood. I was getting out with my daughter, and this guy said to me, he said, "Man, I know what you're going to do." He said, "Don't take that child there." And I said, "Man, I ain't got no place else." He said, "Man, but just leave her here." Now, I didn't know this man from Adam, but he looked like a clean-cut guy, and he probably was a recovering addict himself. But he said, "Just leave her here, and I'll hold her until you come back. You don't want to take your daughter up in that alley, up in that hole, because then they get to shooting up there, or them sticker boys might be trying to knock them drug dealers off, and you get her caught up in that foolishness." And he was right. So, I left her with somebody I didn't have any idea who he was, what his name was, or anything. So I could go get my dope, put it in me, and come back and be able to take care of my child. I mean, that's how my life has been. You can't be a parent and a drug addict at the same time. And people tell me they have this foolishness that they talk about as well, I had a job, I kept a job, and I took care of my family, but I still use 25 years. Well, if you gave any money that you earned to a drug dealer, or to the liquor store, that was money you was taking out of your family's life. Money that could have been used for their betterment, the betterment of your family, and you was using it to please yourself with some poison. So, man, I used to look, Bashi, I used to shoplift and steal baby clothes and take them to the elementary school where my daughter was going to school. And I used to stick them in her bag. I used to get there before mother because I wanted to be a father. And I was an addict. Man.
But it's not that way today.
Not today.
Not today. Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, Teddy, I want to thank you for being on this broadcast tonight. The information that you have shared has been personal, but it's been strengthening. And I love you, man. Appreciate what you're doing. You're a powerful example in your home group, in the community. And so I just want to say thank you for all that you shared here tonight. And so if you want to have 60 seconds, man, just to give some closing remarks to the people who are listening, go ahead and do that.
Okay, well, there is help out there now. If you see, go for it. Don't look. God don't create no junk. That's what I was told. Step out on faith and do something different. If you want to get your life together, it's people out there that will help you, that are in recovery, and people not in recovery that will help you find your way. You have a purpose.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. God bless you. I'm Dr. Jordan. So glad that you are with us tonight. If you have not had an opportunity to get into treatment or get into detox, you can call me. That's right. You can call me. And you can call me at the number that's on the screen, 443-250-9635. If you want some help or some counseling, not only for drugs and alcohol, but I'm also a marriage counselor, pastor, 44 years. You want some spiritual counseling, give me a call, 443-250-9635. And if you want to, just write me, my email is info@hopealiveoutreach.org. You can share some information with me because that's why I'm here. That's why I have the Hope Doctor Speaks. And so I just will do whatever I can do to help you, to help someone else in your family or even to help yourself. And so on Saturday morning at 11, we have something called Praise in Worship. Praise in Worship, 11 a.m. Saturday morning, and we are especially geared toward helping men. That's right. And so if you are a male or if you have a father or a grandfather or a brother or a nephew, and they want to know what their purpose is in their life and how to achieve it, tune in on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. for Praise in Worship. Well, I'm Dr. Jordan. And if you have not gotten my book, that's right. If you have not gotten my book entitled The Pipe and the Pulpit, don't forget, we're running a special for the next week. Instead of it being the regular price of $11.95, it's $6, half what we would normally charge, and $2.50 shipping and handling. And what you can do is you can cash at me. That's right. You can cash at me at the number on the screen, or you can send it to the address on the screen, and you can send me your name and address, and I'll send that book right to you. All right. I'm Dr. Jordan. And remember, no matter what's going on with you today, there is hope for you. I'm the Hope Doctor. Have a great day.